Matthew McGuire?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Your 2 minutes begins now.
I'm here to speak to you today about the need to curb spending at City Hall and the need to lower taxes to make this city more affordable for all residents. Before I continue, I need to point out that this council voted to reduce their own office budgets significantly, and you therefore have the moral authority to proceed with finding savings and reducing the cost of government. Since 2001, property taxes have risen 40% in Toronto. During the same time, the rate of inflation was only half of that. In other words, taxes increased at twice the rate of one's ability to pay. That's not even mentioning the introduction of new taxes, the land transfer tax, the recently repealed vehicle registration tax, and the garbage tax. Taxpayers in this city have been used and abused for a number of years. There will be people after me sitting in this very chair to tell you that raising taxes will help those living in poverty. They're wrong. Typically, people living in poverty are tenants. When taxes increase, landlords pass the cost to the tenants in the form of increased rent. Raising taxes will hurt those living in poverty more than anything else this council can do. The Toronto Taxpayers Coalition has advocated for a number of things that will work to reduce the burden on all taxpayers in this city. We have advocated for contracting out services. At the May Council meeting, in fact, we submitted a petition containing 2,000 signatures of people across Toronto calling for citywide contracting out of garbage collection. We have advocated for the elimination of the fair wage policy. When some councillors say that their research shows that contracting out services will not save the city any money, the reason they're partially right is a result of city policy that requires these people to be paid the same. The fair wage policy eliminates the benefits of competition. And we have advocated for staff layoffs through attrition, buyouts, and other means.
Thank you very much, sir. Councillor Perks, you have a question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Sir, I'm over here. Hi.
Hi, Councillor.
You made the assertion that tax increases hurt tenants, and that would be true. Are you aware that in the years 2008, 9, and 10, the City of Toronto reduced the tax rate for multi-residential and therefore tenants?
That is one tax rate. There are many, many tax rates.
This is the property tax the City of Toronto collects from them. It's what we collect from tenants. You're aware we decreased it in those 3 years.
Tax rates have gone down in some respects, but when you look at the introduction of new taxes, the land transfer tax, the vehicle registration tax, increases in fares and user fees, these are things that hurt tenants. These are things that hurt people in poverty, and they hurt middle-class families like myself who are struggling, and I am a tenant as well. There is something that needs to be done, and I've laid out the answers for you. Find ways to curb spending, find ways to reduce the cost of government. To say that Toronto wants anything else would be to grossly misrepresent what happened in the last election.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Carroll?
Hi, I'm not sure about your math on tax increases, but I was wondering if you were aware that that the biggest tax increases, you went back to year 2001, so I don't know how closely you reviewed them. Were you aware that 2002 and 2003, after freezing property taxes and reducing positions by 800 across the city, the highest property tax increases we've ever had were 2002, 2003, 5.61 and 5.4 something?
There are a lot of people who are going to come here today and give advice to increase spending. Right now, as it stands, there is a $774 million budget shortfall. Well, what would you peg it at, Councillor?
You're supposed to answer the questions. I'm happy to hear your
answer. Okay, a $774 million budget shortfall with a 1% property tax increase bringing in $22.6 million would result in a 34% increase if nothing else is done. That's all things equal. That is a humongous property tax, and it's a ticking tax time bomb of a situation.
Thank you, sir.
We're not going to stand for that.
Thank you. Councillor Davis?
So the KPMG report, which is before us, recommends reductions to a whole number of services, libraries, well, I don't need to list them. Which services would you think we should reduce?
We've mentioned three things. We want to contract out more services. We want staff layoffs, and staff layoffs through attrition as well.
No, I'm asking specifically, because staff provide services. So if you lay off services, that means what they're delivering is not going to be there. Which services? There's a list before us.
We have provided three ways for you to take the ball and start going. The rest of that job, Councillor, you're going to have to look at. And you have to weigh, you have to find the services that are the least important and will affect the least number of people and weigh that against the threat of a massive property tax increase, which is the result of taking the advice of many other deputants here today.
I'm simply asking which services.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Memolidi.
So we've heard from 403 people throughout this process, most of which just have criticized, not really given us anywhere to they haven't pointed anywhere to actually save the money. And if your 34% is accurate, and I think it is, what does that mean to a senior who owns a home in terms of their property tax increases? What does that mean to someone who's barely struggling and who gets a pension increase of less than inflation every year?
It would be devastating. The effects would be absolutely devastating on families living, say, paycheck to paycheck, or seniors on a very fixed income. People can't absorb such massive costs to their daily lives. Currently, I believe the provincial government has allowed a 3% increase in rent. A property tax of this magnitude would roughly allow for a 10% increase in rent.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you very much for coming, too.
Thank you.
We have two things that we can do here. One is to rationalize services and try to provide the services in a more efficient way, or, as a lot of people here have suggested, raise taxes. If we chose to take the last route, to raise the taxes, and say it wasn't 25% like people are suggesting, say we find some of the money, and I'm sure we will, and let's say that we're talking of half of that, maybe a 12% tax increase. What do you think that would do to some of the people in the City of Toronto and some of the businesses?
That would be devastating as well. Right now, Toronto's mill rate for corporate properties is quite high. That contributes to the above-average unemployment rate here in Toronto. If we want to help people out, we can work on reducing the tax burden on individuals and corporations so that they're able to create the jobs and help get Toronto's economy moving again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much,
Thank you
sir.
for your time.